Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're having a good weekend. I'm having a ball. I'm still on vacation until Tuesday, and I'm really enjoying it. It's Sunday right now, and it is stupid gorgeous outside. So I've decided to come out here and start gaming on the porch. This is why I love portable systems, is you get to enjoy the outside. In summertime, gaming outside is one of my favorite things. Especially when you have a nice sunny, warm day like this, it's just awesome to sit back, relax, and get some gaming in. So while on vacation so far, I did go chance it and go to Seattle this weekend. I took the ferry. I drove everywhere. I didn't take public transportation or anything like that. And I met up with a friend, and we were in a relatively safe environment. We ate at Lunchbox Labs, which was my first time. Place is actually really good. Good company, of course. And thankfully, it wasn't like crowded or anything. We went there straight up during lunchtime, and because it's kind of like in an office district of Seattle, there's nobody going to their offices right now in the middle of all this, so it was relatively empty. But we also were there because it's close to Glacier Camera in Seattle, and they're kind of like the closest thing where we have like the B&H in Seattle or camera stores. And I got some equipment, but the main thing was this, just the case, because I just been raw dogging throwing this thing into like my pockets and stuff. So I got this, a screen protector for my camera, and I like this. This is just wide enough that I can fit the camera in there with the dead cat on top of it, and it just fits in there nice and snug. So that'll be handy if things go back to normal and I can go to events and stuff like that, and then I don't have to like really worry all that much about like bringing this big huge backpack with all this stuff and all this in it. That's the thing about I've learned since I've gotten this. With this, to get all the footage I want off my S10 in the way that I want, I have to carry like ND filters, different lenses, stuff like that. And although it's overall cheaper, it's more clutter. And with this, I can do mostly what I'm looking for in that. Now, I can't do like those cool anamorphic shots or anything like that, but it's a fair trade up. So also I was there. Of course, I'm not going to go to Seattle and not go get video games. So I went to Pink Gorilla, and they seemed like they were doing okay, which is good. I'm really concerned about how other people are surviving in this climate right now with everything going on. But I did want to go in there, and I did want to support them because I do want to see them do well, and get through this whole COVID thing. So one of the things of interest for me is old Xbox games, since there's backwards compatibility for the older Xbox stuff, and a lot of them are being updated as well. So one that I had back in the day, never got to it. It's on my pile of shame, and you guys are gonna start seeing me play more of these games. I'm starting a thing just calling pile of shame, and so it's me going back, checking these games out, and kind of giving you like a quick impression of like what I think. Is it worth like still picking up today and stuff like that. But I did get Assassin's Creed for the 360, and this is one that they updated. So they updated like the shadows, so they like draw out a lot further. It does run in 4K now, I believe. And playing it, it looked fantastic. You can see like the textures, like the are a little bit pixelated looking, just because it's such an old game. And I picked up Splinter Cell Pandora tomorrow. I've never actually played this one. I played about halfway through the first Splinter Cell, and that's about where I'm at right now. I just got into the police station level, if you know what I'm talking about. But all the Xbox games, for the most part, look stupid good. I have Republic Commando, and that has some pretty gnarly looking textures on it here and there. But other than that, like a lot of these games look really, really good and hold up pretty well because some of the work that they did back then is kind of surprising how it translates to today, and then also the images for all the original Xbox games that do work on the Xbox One X are running in 4K now. So this next game has a little bit of controversy behind it. It's kind of interesting, actually. There's a lot of people like it a lot, and there's a lot of people that hate it a lot. And what I found is of the people that hate it a lot, hate it because it's not a straight up RPG, and that is Paper Mario Origami King. And this one I'm actually going to do a review on because it's so divided. Now, I will tell you that Thousand Year Door is one of my favorite games, right along with Super Mario RPG. If you don't know the history of Paper Mario, basically Square worked on Mario RPG, and then Paper Mario on the N64 started life as Super Mario RPG 2, and then they changed it to Paper Mario, and that's why it had so many RPG battle systems and stuff like that carried over, and along with Thousand Year Door. Thousand Year Door is fantastic. I hope Nintendo still listens to everybody and just remasters it, re-releases it on Switch. That would be awesome. But of what I've played of this so far, and I've played probably about 3 or 4 hours so far, I am enjoying it. It's got a little bit of a slow start. There's a lot of reading for somebody with dyslexia that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I am enjoying Paper Mario a lot. It's very charming. Graphically, it's very good. It looks like a lot of. I've seen some assets that seem to have come out of Crafted World, Yoshi's Crafted World, and just be transferred over. So it must be running A, Unreal Engine 4, and B, like, they're using some of the assets there to kind of come up with, like, the cardboard aesthetic and stuff that was used in that game. Crafted World was fun, but it wasn't, like, outstanding, where I can tell this game's got a little bit more polish to it already. There is a couple spots that, unfortunately, like, there's chests and stuff in the world, and I kind of screwed up and didn't do the right thing at the first time, or didn't get it. So there's this one area where there's like these spikes that you run across, and then you get like a star. And I didn't put two to two together to think that I need to use the star to get across the spikes with invincibility. But and that's something you typically don't do in a Mario game. I think, matter of fact, if you still are like on Star Power Mario Brothers, I think if you step on spikes, you still die. And so I didn't put two and two together. I didn't have much time, and I am not able to get the star again. So that's one collectible I'm out of. So that's kind of annoying, and that's something I would expect out of an older game design. But the actual battle mechanic, you have this like really cool ring, and the ring is really cool, but it doesn't seem like the pacing of the battles is necessarily the best so far. Like, it seems like there's areas where it goes really long without any battles, and just get to explore the world and stuff. And then there's areas where it's like they're stacked right on top of each other, and it could be like 5 battles, like all in a row, you know. So that's the one downside I can see. They are constantly introducing new mechanics that kind of like refresh the game a little bit, like new tools and stuff like that. You get a ton of coins. You can use the coins to buy like new objects and stuff like that to use to fight in battles and all that. But so far I haven't gotten that far into it. But I was surprised because there's also battle mechanics in there that happen in the actual game world and not in the combat mode or whatever, the rings. So you come across these paper mache Goombas, and they have weak spots on the back, and you have to kind of like let them charge you and hit them with the hammer on the back to destroy them. That's our one weak spot. And so far, that's pretty cool. I really like that. Then you have this cool mechanic where there's like holes in the world that are being caused by these Goombas, these large paper mache Goombas that are eating like parts of the world and stuff like that. And so you just go up and throw this like bag of confetti, and you can get confetti by like smashing different trees and flowers and stuff like that. And it makes confetti that you can pick up and use. And so like you'll like come across areas where there's like a place that's not easy to cross or something like that. You can throw confetti at the hole and cover the hole over, and then you'll usually get like coins on top of that coming out of that like little area that you've repaired. So far it's really cool. I really like the characters in it. The humor in it's really great. So I'm definitely gonna keep playing it and check this game out and give you guys sort of like a final review of what I think about it. But so far I think I'm digging it. So maybe you don't need to see the review at this point, but I want the practice, so I'm going to do a review out of it. All right, and one final thing I want to talk about that a lot of people are making a big deal out of, and I don't think it's a big deal. And I don't like doing, I don't want to be a drama channel. I don't want to do any negative crap out there. I like doing positive stuff. I like putting positive things out into the world. But man, on the 23rd, morning of my birthday, Microsoft did an event and they showed Halo. And to put things in context, I've been to a couple E3s here and there. I've paid close attention to the industry. It's a thing that I love. It's kind of honestly more of an obsession and less of a hobby to me in a lot of ways, if I'm being quite frank. And the flack that Microsoft got for Halo Infinite and what they showed off. So there is some context now that we didn't have before. But yes, the game is not super pretty, but it also doesn't look super bad to me. Now, let me explain. Having been to E3, having also just paid attention to E3 events and to the press for years, typically the demos that you get at E3 are not necessarily like the best representation of the final game, and that's typically what happens. Alright, so sorry for my crude drawing, but I have a little diagram I made up here. So this is a representation of what happens when you make an E3 demo, okay, as a studio. So you have here 343, and those six little stick guys represent like their entire workforce or team working on Halo, right? So what happens is you're creating Halo. Now, what for context that we learned here is during this point right here, where they are all working together on Halo Infinite. And Halo Infinite, by the way, was being worked on as a Xbox One title, not necessarily an next-gen title. So for part of the reason of why it looks the way it does, you got to think of it as kind of the same reason that like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was originally made for the Wii U, and it's very much a product of the Wii U. And they just took that product and ported it over to the Switch. And when they did that, they just used the extra power to like make the resolution a little bit higher, maybe make the frame rate a little bit better in some places. But other than that, it's very much a Wii U game, okay? So that's essentially what we're looking at here. We're looking at Halo, which is really a product of the Xbox One, being ported over to Series X, and then probably the byproduct of that's going to be, since it's got more power, you're going to see like 4K, 60 hertz, probably solid through the whole thing, right? And then probably just like with Halo 5 Guardians, where it came out originally for the Xbox One base system and Xbox One S in some ways, that when the Xbox One X came out, they went back through, updated it, made better LODs, which is level of detail for distances and stuff like that, better looking shadows, and then on top of that, like some better effects and stuff that they couldn't do on the original hardware. So that game got updated, and that game got updated while they were starting to work on this. So new tools that they were working for on this, some of those tools got used to update Halo 5 Guardians, okay? So what happened is Microsoft, and the other thing, by the way, we found out was during this time period, they were originally making the game on Unreal Engine 4, and what ended up really happening was they ported it over to a new engine called Slipstream. So in the middle of this, they pretty much had to like kind of start over. Okay, so Microsoft comes to them and they say, we want a demo for E3, because remember, this is supposed to be E3. COVID hasn't like really picked up yet, and a lot of these decisions are made very early on in the year, okay? So at this point, early on in the year, Microsoft comes to them where the X is and says, we want you to make a demo, okay? And sorry for my crude drawings. So right here, the team starts working together to figure out what part that they have so far that's the most stable, and to section off that part and make a demo out of it. Now, when this happens, some of the team, like these guys, are moved down here to this fork to make the demo. Okay, so now some of your staff is working on the demo and some of your staff is continuing to work on the game. This slows production of this up, and these guys down here, what their concern is to take this point of the game and the section that they were assigned to actually make a suitable demo that's going to run well, okay? Now, that means like a lot of effects, stuff like that, it's not done, okay? So, and a lot of times with Microsoft, they used PCs for development kits, and when you go to an event like E3, PAX, something like that, it looks like there's an Xbox on the top you're playing with an Xbox controller, but it's actually like a hollowed out cabinet on the bottom with a PC typically running it. Unless you see an Xbox and nothing underneath, you're actually probably playing it on a development kit, and that's the same way with PlayStation. PlayStation does the same shit. A lot of times it does events, they have development kits running them. So, you're running this demo, which is these guys are working on to make it stable, okay? The game is still being developed, by the way, and still moving forward. Why these guys their main job is just to make sure this little chunk from way back in like January, February is stable, okay? And it's got to be ready by June, because E3 is typically ready for June, okay? So once they're done, these guys go back up here and rejoin development, okay? So let's say like E3 is like out here somewhere typically, okay? So let's say that X represents E3. That didn't happen this year. And this demo didn't get shown to the press. It got shown to us. It got shown and recorded to us, okay? And so what ended up happening is that pushed it out here to July. It's a bad X. I'm in a weird angle. Never mind. So now we're out in July, and we're looking at a demo that was finished like probably back before June, okay? And is a product of something that was probably worked on up to the point of like January, February. And so that's typically why demos at these events don't look that great. Now, if you probably looked at what they were working on right now, you probably see something that looks better graphically, but probably doesn't have like the polished frame rate and stuff because it's not ready to come out yet. Typically, polishing it up to the point where like the frame rate's smooth and all that, and kind of pulling back effects to kind of figure out that balance of where you want your frame rate and your effects to be at and all that, doesn't typically happen until like way out here at the end. Okay, so like right at the very end. So that's pretty typically how these demos go at these events. So when people were harking, it's like it doesn't look next gen enough. It looks like a demo that I'm used to seeing at E3, and it wasn't that great of or it wasn't that big of a deal to me. So that's where we're at, and a lot of people are angry about that, and in my opinion, not rightfully so, because this is not the first time this has happened. This has happened multiple times, and I've seen it multiple times where I've gone to these events and played these demos, and the games, in some cases, even run like garbage. And then, like 6 months later, when the game comes out, it's super polished. It's one of the best running things I've ever had. This is not a good indication of where the game's going to end up at. So there's not really good reason to be angry about it. And different game projects have different setbacks, like Halo did, where they had to switch engines and stuff like that for whatever reason. The other thing I heard was that they were originally trying to make it so the entire ring was playable, and then now they just section it off to certain islands and all that. The thing I'm not thrilled to hear is that apparently Halo is supposed to be a 10-year project. I don't know if I want a 10-year project. I just want a game. And I hear a lot of people on that. It seems like more and more people get more vocal. They just want a game experience for a certain price and then to move on to the next thing. They don't want stuff to drag out. But overall, I didn't think it was a bad demo. I thought I got the general idea of what they were trying to do with the game and everything, and I think that's what's really important. And I don't think people should be passing judgment on Microsoft because of where the game's at, because there's multiple things that could happen. The stuff that was shown at the Sony event could be close to done. I mean, it's not unheard of for projects to get close to done or something like that. Some projects get done early sometimes, and they tend to look better because of that fact, because of that point where they cut off to do the demo or gameplay record or whatever. That part is already polished up and ready to go. So you can't really tell at what state the thing's going to launch at based off of a demo, especially an E3 demo. That's a known thing in the industry, especially with journalists, for a long time, and that's something that I don't think a lot of other smaller like YouTube channels really understand. And I don't think they correctly really zoned in on what they should have as far as critiquing. If you have a problem with the gameplay or something like that, or the mechanics or something like that, I kind of get that. Those are things that can't change immediately. But this stuff with the engine, you can do a lot in 6 months with an engine. I also have to give some shade and criticism to Review Tech USA. He showed on his video for Halo, he's like, there's popping. Now there's popping on the foreground when they went from the map back in, and the popping happened, and that's just because of the state where the build's at, probably. But two things, first of all, okay? I know these systems have SSDs. I know Microsoft is calling theirs the Velocity engine. Look, it's bullshit marketing to say it has an SSD. It's just like Farfignugan or blast processing back in the day. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just marketing bullshit. So don't buy into it, okay? Second of all, when you are like closing in on like something that's like Halo, that's like big open fields and it spans out until as far as the GPU can draw. And the thing that you're using as an example is pop in is a little like pine tree that's like 20 pixels big, way out there on the edge of the horizon, where the mountains are, where you're nowhere near, and you're complaining that pop in's happening, and you're like, I thought the SSDs were supposed to fix that. No, GPUs still have limitations. They can only draw so far. That's not an SSD problem. That's a problem with the way these things work. It's just like camera lenses. The sensor size and the type of glass matters. There's a physics that get involved in that. We were just talking about microphones the other night with my friends. You can't have a microphone on your headset that sounds just as good as a big cardioid, because the big cardioid has more surface area. It's going to be able to like capture more overall sound because of the way the physics work and the air pressure works on a larger diaphragm area. So there's all these things that go into it, and it's the same with electronics. It's the same with CPUs. It's the same with GPUs. Everything has a limit, and sometimes it's a limit of the game engine too. So to sit there and think all pop-in is going to go away because like, and that kind of pop-in is like level of detail pop-in. Okay, that's things that happen. That was probably a 2D asset that was drawn way out there. It's not even a 3D asset. So to think that that's going to go away because we have SSDs all of a sudden, no, that's not how these things work. So, anyways, I just wanted to say that, kind of get it off my chest, give you guys like a little another idea of what Halo looked fine. It looked fine. I got an idea what they're going for, and final judgment should be passed on it when it's actually out and in a review state. Okay. So, anyways, I'm gonna sit here on the porch. I'm gonna drink some really bad things because I decided to drop my no sugar policy for a couple days. I got a cheesecake and some Mountain Dew, and yeah, it's ripping me a new one, but I am enjoying it. And I'm gonna play some more Paper Mario. So I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you later, and yeah. And also, by the way, I got a lot of stuff for this camera for live streaming, so hopefully that'll be a thing very soon. All right, later, guys.